that you can go to get more information about registration. We are continuing to hire staff as needed. We actually discussed tonight, I think we have 4 or 5 vacancies right now that are posted, and we'll continue to interview and go through that process in preparation for this fall. And then just a reminder that offices will be closed June 30th to July 4th for the 4th of July holiday. Finally, a couple just upcoming dates for people to keep in mind. July 28th board meeting. There's really not a lot that happens between this meeting and the July meeting, but once we hit July, we are going to be sprinting into the school year with new educator orientation, the work session, mascot welcomes on the 15th, and then teachers return on the 18th, and the first day for students on the 20th. And I think that's all I have for tonight.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions? At this time, Claire Johnson will provide the junior and I think also maybe senior report as well. Okay.
Good evening. Short one because it's June and we aren't in school, but we still have some cool things going on. This year, District 7 had some outstanding academic accomplishments, including 5 EHS students scoring a perfect 36 on the ACT, and 4 of them got a 35. 11% of the junior class earned above a 30 or above. Congratulations to Ella Bates, Matthew Huddle, Ian McGinnis, and Logan Zamansky and Andrew Wang for earning the perfect score, and keep up the hard work. Graduation was a success with so many amazing graduates and accomplishments. Speeches were given by Student Council Representative and President Lucy Chapman, Senior Board Rep Amelia Gerada, and class presidents Quinn David and Xavier Wilson. Congratulations to all the seniors and their congratulations on their hard work. Congratulations again to the EHS Tiger baseball team for winning IHSA Regional Championship. Shout out to all the players for their hard work and dedication throughout the season. Finally, Tiger Welcome is an event for incoming high school students and will be taking place on August 15th at the high school. This event typically includes a tour, a Q&A session, and an activity fair. More information will be disclosed as we get closer to the school year. That's it.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Awesome. Okay. At this time, does any board member have a report to share? Okay. We're in the section of the meeting where we recognize special guests, students who have excelled, and provide the opportunity for visitors to address the board. Following this section, we will take a short recess to allow any individuals who wish to leave to do so prior to the remainder of the meeting. At this time, I'd like to introduce Amy Biscollo, Athletic Director, who will recognize the Edwardsville High School girls track team for their accomplishments.
Thank you, Dr. Shelton and President Patey and the members of the board. It's always exciting to be here. I'm here to introduce Coach Desiree Howard. Desiree's in her inaugural season as our girls track and field coach this year, and I actually had to write it down because our girls won the Mascoutah Invite, Bloomington Invite, EHS Invite, Belleville West Invite, Madison County, Southwestern Conference. They were sectional runner-up, and then they took 9th place in state overall. So today, Coach Howard is here to... So Coach Howard is here to recognize 2 of her athletes that medaled at state, and you have a long road of lots of success coming, so here you go.
Thank you. Thank you to the board. Thank you to Dr. Shelton as well. So she's always kind of went down the line of things that happened this year. It was a great season. Obviously looking forward to more. I'm going to introduce Sophie Shapiro. Sophie is a rising junior. She was one of 2 medalists for us this year. In her sophomore season, Sophie was undefeated in the 100-meter hurdles and the 300-meter hurdles and the 400-meter dash. She is our school record holder in all 3 events. She qualified for state for us on our school record 4x1 and our 4x4. We're extremely proud of you. We have 2 more seasons with her. Anything you want to say?
Thank you to everyone who supported me, and thank you to Coach most especially.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ms. Biscola, will you now recognize the ultimate Frisbee team for their accomplishments?
I can do that. Before we do that, I do want to say congratulations to Joy Story. She's not here today, but she is one of our track and field athletes. She medaled in both the shot put and discus. Last year, she was state champion in the discus. This year, she qualified in 2 events, and she was just phenomenal, and we get her back next year as well. So really good success for the girls, and can't wait to see what they do this year. Today, I get to also introduce Coach Jason. I'm not going to try to pronounce his last name. I tried. It was not successful, so we're not going to do that. But Jason is our Ultimate Frisbee head coach. Ultimate Frisbee is a club for us, and he has been the head coach for 2 years, and he's been with the program for about 6, but they did something really special this year. So Coach, come up, talk about your athletes and what they did.
Hi, how you doing? Thank you, board. Thank you, Dr. Shelton. So our club, we've been a club for about 10 years with the school. This year was a really successful season for us. We're unique too because we play in Missouri as well, because there's no local teams down here that we play in. So we finished 2nd in Missouri State. But the big news is that we finished 1st for the 2nd time in Illinois State, and also got nationally ranked as one of the top 25 programs in the country. A few of the players were able to make it out tonight. We have over 60 students in the program. This year was also the first year we had a girls team come out too. So the program's growing, and we just are going to continue to have success, I think. So I'll introduce, first I'll go with the one sophomore we have here tonight, Graham Anderson. The rest of these are juniors, and then we had one senior that's here tonight, Teddy Raymond. Rico Rodriguez. Ricky Donner. Jack Campbell. Jackson Campbell. And we only had 3 graduating seniors on our varsity team, so we're looking to have good success next year, and one that's representing them here tonight is Cam Schleeper.
Okay. This time I'd like to introduce Tracy Daniels, president of the Edwardsville chapter of the NAACP.
Tracy, you're welcome to sit there. You're welcome to grab the microphone from Amy if you'd like to stand. It's your choice.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Tracy Daniels, the president of the Edwardsville branch of the NAACP. And on behalf of the NAACP, it is our honor to continue our partnership with Edwardsville District 7 on this meaningful initiative, a collaboration that has been in place since 2018. These designated funds are used to specifically purchase multicultural literature for students across the district. We believe deeply in the power of representation. And we know how transformative it is for a child to see themselves reflected in the pages of a book, their culture, their heritage, their history, their story. This effort is not just about books, it's about identity, belonging, and affirming that every child matters, not in word, but in action. Thank you for allowing us to play a part in nurturing your students. So I'd like to ask those who are here from the NAACP to come up here as we present this check for $2,500.
At this time, I'd like to acknowledge the District 7 administrators who retired at the end of the 2024-2025 school year. I would like to welcome forward Kurt Schumacher, principal of Goshen Elementary School, Dr. Vince Schlater, assistant principal of Edwardsville High School. Okay, I got more to say. Okay. Sorry, this. Sorry. Special recognition and appreciation to Kurt Schumacher for 33 years of dedication, leadership, and committed service to the community, parents, and students of District 7. And special recognition and appreciation to Dr. Brent Schlater for 21 years of dedication, leadership, and committed service to the community, parents, and students of District 7. We wish you all the best,
Yes.
and you will be missed.
Yes.
Somebody needs to fix the air in here.
Got it.
Get on that. Okay. Sorry. I'd like to thank our visitors and special guests for being here this evening. You're welcome to stay for the remainder of the meeting. However, at this time, we'll just break for a minute to give people who would like to leave, and then we can continue on. So just take a minute if anybody would like to leave. At this time, the board has set aside time for anyone wishing to address the board. I'd like to remind the public that this portion of the meeting, for a maximum of 60 minutes, time is reserved for comments from the public in accordance with policy 2230, public participation at Board of Education meetings and petitions of the board as follows. This will be the only opportunity to address the board during the regular meeting. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. A screen timer will be provided, but not tissues, sorry. Individuals may not defer your time to another speaker. If your comments are about matters involving students or district personnel, please refrain from disclosing names. Please understand that the board will not respond to questions made during public comments, but may direct the superintendent to address the questions in a district communication or at a subsequent board meeting. Please remember that the board generally needs to gather additional information about any questions or concerns prior to responding for taking action. At the conclusion of the meeting, if you have additional questions for the board, please see the board secretary. And we have one name on the list that signed up, Sarah Hollis.
My name is Sarah Hollis. I'm a teacher here at Liberty, and I'm also a parent of D7 students. Good evening, Board of Education and Dr. Shelton. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I know there are many important needs pulling at the budget: construction, technology, curriculum, and all of them have merit. But I hope you'll hear me when I say there is no smarter investment than in the people standing in the front of the classroom. I feel confident saying that every person in this room can think back over their own educational journey and point to a teacher who brought out greatness in them that they didn't know was there. That's because great teachers change lives. We inspire students to believe in themselves. We create safe, consistent spaces where kids feel valued. We adapt, innovate, and pour our hearts into helping every student grow, not just academically, but as human beings. And when we talk about student success, test scores, graduation rates, college and career readiness, it all starts with having the right person in the room. Recruiting and retaining excellent teachers is not just a budget item, it's a strategy. It's part of the strategic plan that we adopted several years ago, and it is the most efficient, most effective way to ensure that your dollars have a lasting impact. Every time we lose a talented educator to burnout, stress, or better pay elsewhere, we lose momentum. It ends up costing us more in time, training, and student outcomes than if we would have just paid to keep them in the first place. This is not just about salary, although that's certainly part of it. It's about respect and value. It's about honoring the single profession that creates every other profession. It's about showing your educators that their hard work matters enough to be prioritized in meaningful ways. Investing in teachers is not a luxury. It's the foundation for everything else you hope to achieve in this district. Thank you for your time and for your continued support of our students and those who serve them every day.
Is there anybody else that'd like to address the board? Please.
I thought I signed up to sign something. Jennifer Sparks, a teacher, as most of you know. I'm here tonight again about Hamel Elementary School needing a new gym. I know the addition is probably out of the conversation. The board was presented different designs for a shiny new media center for the high school at your board retreat. A reminder to all of you that the bond monies approved were for phase 1 projects and for phase 2. Hamel was a phase 1 and the media center a phase 2. At the February board meeting, I spoke about Hamel. Later during that discussion portion of the meeting, the superintendent as well as some board members made mention that the needs and the direction of the district have changed, referring to building a new shiny media center over Hamel Elementary. I will remind all of you that the gym at Hamel also serves as the cafeteria. The tables in which students sit during lunch must be stored in a corner of the gym, taking up space. The basketball hoops anchored into the flooring has not changed, taking up additional space, and probably can't be removed because of asbestos in the flooring of the tiles. The needs of the project from Hamel to the high school media center only changed when the superintendent and some board members saw fit to do so. As one board member stated that all students will use the media center, but let's remember, that's in 10 or 12 years. Wouldn't it be nice if the board did follow through with completing a phase 1 project instead of starting a phase 2 project? Where is the accountability? Everything shouldn't always go to the high school or have to be so extravagant. How much money could have been saved and used on another phase 1 project if the words of Lincoln Wildcats were not spelled out in the bricks? Money could have been saved and a promise could have been fulfilled. Even the younger students do deserve the very best. Let's not forget the board and the superintendent will be asking for another bond in 2026 and in 2029. Neither of these will actually more than likely probably pass without the northern area support. Let's show how worthy the northern area is by adding a new gymnasium to Hamel. On another topic, the media center would be another new shiny project over people. As you are aware, EEA is currently in negotiations. Now, I don't know any particulars, but I have been with the district long enough to know teacher salaries will be discussed and probably at great length. For some time now, we have had a large number of teachers either retiring early or resigning. When discussing salaries, I want you to think about this. You can't hire loyalty. Loyalty must be earned. Loyalty can be earned with clear communication, something this district has lacked for many years. Loyalty can be earned with trust and autonomy. It is time our board shows their teachers our worth so loyalty can be built again to make Edwardsville School District great again. Having teachers stay with our district only increases a positive culture with students, families, and our staff. Our members deserve this.
Anybody else?
My name is Amanda Kennedy. I'm a Year 5 teacher, a parent, and a taxpayer in District 7. During my time with District 7, I've sat through several meetings. One really stood out to me, a short video about the importance of an education that threw numerous statistics in your face of what could happen to you without one. I realized just how many statistics I have beaten. Poor single mother, raised by a poor single mother in the projects with a plethora of odds stacked against me. However, I was the first in my family to graduate college. I did it with a 4-year-old in tow, graduating with the highest honor, summa cum laude. I had the passion to beat the odds and not become another statistic. I brought that passion and love of teaching with me to D7 to teach children to both love and respect learning time. Due to childcare circumstances, I've made the hard decision to take some time off to raise my family. Per my contract at District 7, I can request this unpaid time. However, per this board, I was denied that time. I plan to leave regardless of the request. That was just the professional thing to do since the intention was to return. However, I was denied this request and met with a very unprofessional response of, "You're easily replaceable as an early childhood educator," per Brian Lane. Pretty rich coming from the director of HR. I did not reach out to the EEA following the decision. A colleague did because she and several others were confused on why the request would be denied, especially given the fact that it's in our contract. Here's the deal though, it's all a facade, and you, Patrick Shelton, are the used car salesman behind all of it.
Excuse me, ma'am, can we, not use names,
Okay,
please?
you love to promote We Are Family, but I bet anything you didn't even know my name as I sat down here to speak today, even though I've been with the district for 5 years, and even though you've been in my classroom to observe me. You love saying, how can we, everyone, every day, Edwardsville, D7 proud with Tiger Pride, firsthand experience working in the district, the only one fitting for you, is with Tiger Pride. It's fitting because, fun fact, the male tiger doesn't want to share its shelter or its hunt. It only looks out for itself. Sound familiar? Because given the way things are going with Shelton's very favorable contract, seems as though he is a prideful and selfish tiger. Another fun fact, the mothers stick with their cubs, sharing shelter, their hunt, and teaching them before sending them off on their own. Sounds like the perfect representation of teachers and their students. Enough is enough. If you can have your contract, we should be able to have ours. So ask yourself, board, how can we give these teachers what they need, take care of the pride that protects and teaches these youngs? And lastly, I'll once again become a statistic. I am now one of the 44% of teachers who leave because of being underpaid and overworked. Brian Lane, since I'm so easily replaceable, I resign. Sorry, guys.
Before we move on to the next agenda item, the board would like to thank those who spoke this evening. While we are unable to address your comments at this time, please know that the board will have conversations with administrators about the topics brought up tonight. You should expect to hear from Dr. Shelton or an appropriate staff member either by phone or email. Okay. Would any board member like to remove any consent agenda items for separate action? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda items as recommended this evening.
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Bertles. Yes. Ahart.
Yes.
Bryan.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Carver. Yes. Patey.
Yes. Okay, action item 6.1. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the 25-26 District 7 Consolidated District Plan.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Can you give some details of what's in the plan, please?
It's 29 pages, contains a lot of information about the demographics of the district, how we serve through federal programs. The district, it's one of the precursors of all of the federal grants that we have to fill out that has to be approved every year.
Anybody else? Okay. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, say nay. Okay, ayes have it, motion carries. Action item 6.2, approval of Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the 25-26 District 7 Title I school-wide waivers.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? I guess.
So
Why
without,
don't you describe this?
yeah, typically if you are a Title I school, you are identified as Title I, and students who are identified as Title I students can be served directly. It's called targeted assistance. By passing school-wide waivers, all of our schools now qualify as Title I, and any student within the school can receive the benefits of Title I curriculum purchases, staff that's paid for, things like that.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Motion carries. Action item 6.3, Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the first reading of policy updates as presented and recommended this evening.
Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussions?
I do have some information to share.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we talked about this a lot at the retreat.
Yes.
So in open session, so.
So I'm going to give, and Gene, if you can pop the slides back up, we're going to go kind of back and forth between some information. We're going to look at these in two different parts, and I'm going to highlight different pieces. But again, board members, if you have specific things that you'd like to highlight or questions, please feel free to jump in. So the first section that we're going to be approving is a lot of the changes are based on policy 7255, which is a brand new policy that provides supports and protections for students who are parents, expectant parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. And so that language is embedded in definitely these four policies that you see up on the screen. There are certainly other policies that will come up later on, but that's one segment. And this is the actual policy. And when you look online, if you're looking at the policy changes, typically when you look at a board policy, you see red struck items that are being deleted and green items that are being added to a policy. In this case, the entire policy is brand new based on legislation that was passed last year. And so as it says, it provides protections and supports for students who are parents, expectant parents, or victims of domestic or sexual violence. Some of those supports are contained within other policies, so those are cross-referenced. A lot of those are outlined in the very beginning of this policy where it says the superintendent designee shall develop and implement a program to support, and they're called Article 26A students. So that's going to come up over and over again in this policy update, the next policy update, and handbook. You're going to see references to staff who must be trained in Article 26A, providing support for Article 26A. A lot of that relates around trauma, it relates around residency. student attendance and things of that nature. So as we look at those policies, for as an example, 760 provides the district to allow students who are non-residents to attend District 7 schools if they are students who are pregnant, students who are expectant mothers, or students who are victims of sexual or domestic violence. So you can see the changes in that as it relates to 760 and 5100 and 6150. The change in 7190, and I'm just going to quickly just kind of highlight what these are. In 7190 related to student behavior, you have, and sorry, I'm operating off two screens here and trying to pull up some notes. Related to, and it's the word sexting, but there's a whole nother language that's used, but it's basically sexting language that comes out in the student behavior. Sexually explicit images and sharing that's a new part of 7190. 7200 and 7210 on suspension and expulsion procedures all relate to students who are being suspended or going to a hearing, being able to request a support representative and a representative to be with them so they can request the support of two different people. 7250 around student support services provides the availability of counseling services to students who are age 12 and over without parent consent, and that is a new Illinois law, and references Article 26A with staff supports and hiring. So there's another reference to Article 26A. 7270 provides students with the right to possess medicine and monitoring equipment for diabetes. And 7310 and 7315 all relate to changes in policy 7190 as it relates to sexually explicit images. And then the high school version adds encourages or incites violation of board policy in publications. There's your Cliff Note version of part 1.
Okay. And then there's the next.
Yes. So there's one other policy in this section that we'll be reviewing tonight for first reading, and that's policy 420. Policy 420 modifies the fund balance policy to be, rather than be 10% of each operating fund, to be 25% total fund balance of the cumulative funds. And so we have some explanation of that to make sure everybody understands. So when we talk about the district's operating funds, there are 4 funds that make the district operating fund: the education fund, operation and maintenance, transportation, and working cash. On this slide, you can see from the fiscal year 24 audit, you can see the revenue, the expenditures, the fund balance at the end of fiscal year 24, and the overall fund balance from each of those funds. So you can see education is 19, O&M is 99, so on and so forth. If you look at the fund balance policy currently, it would be 10% of each of those funds. However, that poses a problem as it relates to ISBE's process for financial recognition, which has 4 levels: financial recognition, financial review, financial early warning, and financial watch. To create that financial recognition score, there are 5 different levels or 5 different points that the district can get. Fund balance to revenue ratio, expense to revenue ratio, you can read the rest of them, and each of those gets points assigned. Well, that top one, fund balance to revenue ratio, is the one we're talking about, and in many ways, that's the one that drives the next 2. So the fund balance to revenue ratio, in some ways, if you spend more than you take in consistently, you're not going to have fund balance, and it also creates your days cash on hand. So it kind of creates that score. So when you look at that, what we want is that overall fund balance percentage to be 25% or higher. 25% or higher is one of the pieces that gets you the highest level of financial recognition with the state. Of course, you still have to have all those other categories, but the fund balance policy change allows us to align with that so that overall fund balance policy in the bottom right-hand corner always stays above 25%, or the district works on a way to make sure that we can return back to that 25%. And then I'll entertain questions about part 1 of policies.
Okay.
Can you tell us how long has the policy, or has the practice been to do it the way we're working away from?
The 10% plan?
Yes.
Since at least we implemented these policies, and probably before then. It's been a long time. Dave, you probably know historically.
I mean, it was an informal policy, but then it became formal when we adopted Press Plus. Yeah.
And what we heard last week at the retreat, there are several districts that are now doing it the way that you're proposing, and the policy is being written as.
Yeah.
So we're not unique to change it, to transform it to this next. way the policy is?
No, and one of the things that we talk a lot about is, we have a very healthy O&M maintenance budget and fund, right? Fund balance. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a smaller part of the larger budget. The ed fund's the biggest chunk of the pie, right? So if we let O&M go to 300%, it doesn't mean it would offset a lack of fund balance in the ed fund. So all the things have to work together to create the 25. And I think from our perspective, then it does give a little bit more of a bigger picture perspective of the financial health of the district as opposed to focusing on each of the funds individually.
Well, it's basically aligning our policy with the way we're judged by the state for our
Yes.
financial health,
Yes.
instead of it being just a flat. Because if we were to go all the way to the 10% that the current policy says, I mean, that would put us, I can't remember what the choices were for, but one of the lower levels of
Financial review or
health.
financial academic
Yeah,
warning.
Exactly. Okay.
Early warning.
Any other discussion? Okay. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Motion passes. Okay, action item 6.4, Dr. Shelton.
All right, this is the second part of policies. Like I said, we spent a lot of time at Board Retreat reviewing policies because we read through all of these. Last year, there was a court case, the state of Tennessee versus Cardona, that reverted Title IX changes from the 2024 regulations back to the 2020 regulations. So a lot of the policy changes in Part 2 all relate to changes in that Title IX law. And under Title IX in the 2024 regulations, sex-based discrimination was the term as opposed to sexual discrimination or sexual harassment. So 2020 takes it back to the term sexual harassment or sexual discrimination. So many of the changes, all the changes in this slide relate to that language change, nothing substantial in terms of policy, but just the language change of sex-based harassment versus sexual harassment or sexual discrimination. And then there are a few other policy changes that are in this group as well. The attendance policy 770 allows excused absences for attendance at a verified therapeutic appointment and those related to referencing those Article 26A students, so students who are parents, expectant parents, or victims of sexual or domestic violence. Policy 7180 also is a Title IX change, and Policy 7185 is also a Title IX change. So those are also language changes as it relates to Title IX. Any questions on those?
Can I just, can you maybe just remind folks, so this is the first reading, and then there's an opportunity for comment from the public, and then we have our second reading.
Correct.
In July.
Yeah, so the first reading is today, and the policies have to be on display for 30 days unless the board makes an exception, which rarely happens. And so July 28th, they will come back on the consent agenda for approval, but that's also an opportunity for the board to get feedback or the administration to get feedback on any of the policy changes. The other thing I will point out that we talked about in Board Retreat is the Illinois Human Rights Act is still a thing. And so while protections for some students and adults under Title IX are reduced from the 2024 to the 2020 guidance, the Illinois Human Rights Act continues to have those as a state level protection. So now we have two different levels of protection for state and federal.
Any more discussion? Okay. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it, motion carries. Next action item. Action item 6.5, Dr. Shelton.
Following along in like 3 different screens. Okay, District 7 handbook. So we'll just keep on tracking with the slides. So tonight the board is recommended to approve the handbook for 2025-26. Just a quick review of the process. We do have a handbook team within the administrative review that goes through and works with our legal counsel to provide some updates. From there, it goes to Parent-Teacher Advisory and the EEA Handbook Committee. So both of those groups are allowed to ask questions and ask for feedback, give feedback. That final version goes back to our attorneys for legal review to make sure that we're being compliant with state and federal law. And then it goes to the board for review at last week's board retreat and then tonight for approval. A couple highlights from those changes. In each handbook, we update employee names and positions. We update as it relates to board policy, so now Article 26A students are referenced in the handbook, as well as any changes in Illinois School Code. And then we continue to find a removal of duplicated information. And I called her out in board retreat, so I'm going to do it again. Sarah Hollis, who sits on the EA committee, found a reference in our handbook that's probably been there for decades that we've missed year after year, that we were able to remove a term of an employee class that we really don't have anymore. So we appreciate the feedback and the extra eyes on it. A couple highlights of handbook changes. We do have 4 price increases included in the handbook. Lunch prices rate from $3.55 to $3.95, pre-K academy tuition, middle school PE uniforms, and Kids Zone. We've received some feedback about lunch prices and kind of where that makes the district fall in terms of a break-even point, for lack of a better word. Our break-even point is well above the $3.95. We're trying to, I guess, stay afloat is probably the better way to put it. And if you have any specific questions, we can certainly refer those to Dave as it relates to increases in lunch prices. That is also something that is mandated by the Department of Agriculture, who runs the free breakfast and lunch program or the school food program. They require that we increase a certain amount every year to maintain our status with them. And again, most of those questions can go to Dave. We can come back to any questions you'd like. We have, obviously, as I mentioned, addition as it relates to Board Policy 6150, providing support and protections to students identified under Article 26A. We have added language related to the district's adoption of the PACE framework, which is our framework that the state has provided for college and career readiness for students in grades 6 through 12. So this will be the first year of the PACE framework statewide, and District 7 will be adopting that framework as well. You'll be hearing more about pathway endorsements and things like that in the coming years. We have some behavior changes as it relates to bystanders or students who instigate, record, or encourage fighting, as well as the sexually explicit images or sexting is now part of the handbook changes. We've also updated the code of conduct as it relates to athletes and extracurricular activities. So we've spelled that out very explicitly within the handbook and kind of revamped the code of conduct as for both of those areas. Oh, missed a slide here. So the revamped code of conduct has 4 different levels that now match the behavior matrix that we have in District 7. So in District 7, we have an internal behavior matrix that has level 1 behaviors, which are really kind of classroom managed, all the way to level 4 behaviors, which are kind of suspension, expulsion, big deals. And we've applied that to the code of conduct as well. So now if athletes have a level 1 behavior, it's really a coach managed thing, whereas if they have a level 4 behavior, it's the most severe consequence that you could have. Again, Cliff Note version.
Okay, cool. May I have a motion to approve the District 7 handbook for the 25-26 school year?
So moved.
Have a second? Any additional discussion?
I just need a better understanding on the lunch prices. I'm just having from a perspective of looking, at our single parents that are raising multiple children and just not one. We should never penalize children from eating.
So okay.
I don't understand.
I'll Dave jump in with other details, but I'll provide a couple just context pieces. We cannot refuse providing lunch to a student ever. So it doesn't matter if they can pay or not. We cannot refuse lunch. That's part of the program. We can ask people to fill out the free news lunch application, but we cannot require it. It has to be a choice matter. So we can provide the application, but we can't require that everybody fill it out. Mm-hmm. But if you do qualify at that, I think it's 130 and 180% of poverty level, reduced lunch is either given for free or reduced and paid for but through the federal lunch program. We also have opportunities for people to apply for, I'm going to call it exemptions for lack of a better word, or forgiveness. And we've had that happen multiple times. Those come to Dave and I for consideration. So someone who might be in a circumstance where they make enough money that they don't qualify for free lunch, but maybe there's some life circumstances that would not allow them to also pay for lunch. Sure. Those come to us and we do provide those waivers as well. Dave, you want to talk a little bit more about the costs involved?
So the fee is established, I think it's $3.55 this year. So the options under USDA is they do a paid lunch equity tool that we use on a year-to-year basis. And minimally, it has to go up 10 cents every year in order to qualify for what the next step is. Now, the USDA's suggestion is that the pricing should be between $3.85 and $3.95. We could raise it to $3.65. The paid equity lunch tool says that we could raise it to $4. The issue is we don't deny, like Dr. Shelton said, and we don't chase after individuals who don't pay. But the reality right now is that for the food service department itself, no matter how we try and control costs, the food costs have gone up 15% in the last 2 years, but the price has only gone up 3 or 4. So trying to balance that along at the same time when we were going through the state of Illinois requirement to increase wages based on minimum wage requirements for the last 4 years, where the wages were going up 7 or 8% at the same time. So it's trying to balance all those together to try and achieve some equity. So that's where you get the two things working in like opposite directions, I guess. You got the food costs going up, the required costs going up for salaries, and then you've got trying to balance that against what's a fair price for setting a price for lunch pricing. So,
Will we be required to raise it again next year if we raised it more than a dime this year, or not?
you have to increase it 10 cents every year. You are required to increase it until you get to the point of what that tool says. You will have to continually increase it year after year after year. So the answer is you can just do 10, you can do a little more, but you will always continue to have to increase it until you get to a point where you meet that tool indication that this is what it should be.
And I'm not endorsing my next question at all, so don't interpret this.
No,
but
that's fine.
I'm going to say, if we would raise it to 4 1/4 this year, then would we have to raise it again next year? Or is it because we're within a threshold or something like that? I guess that's my question.
It depends on what that tool analysis says every year. I mean,
Okay.
just a hypothetical for 420, I would say no.
Okay.
You wouldn't probably.
Because of,
Right.
not because we've raised
Right.
it that much,
Like
but
last-
it's because it falls into
Yeah, last year's,
parameters.
it's because it incorporates all the costs, and it incorporates just the reimbursement from the feds. Last year's number was 385. This year's number is 4, just to give you an indication of what that tool said. So last year, 385, this year 4.
Okay.
4 is the higher end.
Yes. Mhm. So the USDA's rule right now is you have to raise it 10 cents until you get to that threshold. As Jill suggested a question, but didn't suggest, you can have it over that price. It just has to get to that minimum based on what USDA says. So you could charge $4.50. Not saying you shouldn't, but you could. It just at some point has to get to that minimum requirement, which is, as you can tell, is moving 10 or 15 cents a year right now, based on all the other forces that are going on with reimbursement costs and things like that.
I think my question, or I guess concern, would be that, you know, with the kind of free and reduced lunch program, you're capturing, you know, a certain subset of the population who qualify for that. But then oftentimes maybe there are people who maybe don't qualify, but don't necessarily fill out a form that you could offer. Is there a way that we could make that form just like a required form that goes to every family, that they don't have to fill out, but it's something that is given in a packet?
And Dave, can we, I've talked to Bree about this a couple times, our food service director, because that's something that I did in a different district in a different state. So that's also part of it. I know that anytime a notification about a balance goes home, the form goes with it. So I do know that, but I don't know that we've provided it blanketly to everybody outside if it's available on the website. But I mean, I certainly would bet there are people who could qualify that don't fill out the form.
I think it just might be a good way to possibly increase the number of folks who.
We can definitely look into that, because there are also, and there's a lot of other pieces of funding that come off this number. So like our title funding, our eligibility for title, all of those things are determined by free reduced lunch, or impacted by it.
And then another thing, I know we've talked about briefly at the retreat, that there is a pretty significant subset of folks who maybe don't pay timely or whatever. There's some debt in the lunch, in the school lunch balance. Are there strategies to maybe help offset that? Like what's currently being done? I know we talked a little bit about there's like a limit on the amount you can fund to your balance.
There's a limit through My School Bucks.
Okay.
There is not a limit of the check you can write to the district. And I think it's a great reminder for people that you don't have to use My School Bucks. You can send a check in and it will be credited to your child's account without the fee that comes with My School Bucks. So that's a service that My School Bucks offers. Certainly it's convenient, but it's also, a necessary evil, I guess, for lack of a better word. So there's other things you can do. But that increase, that maximum amount that you can fund is increasing to $150 next year. But you can send a check to our finance department and they can credit it for whatever amount you'd like to put on the check.
Any other discussion, questions?
Yeah, I have referenced the code of conduct. I just want to remind parents out there, there's a lot of information in this handbook, and there's a lot of good sports athletes that we have that go to this district. Please read over the code of conduct because it does run all year long. So even though your child is done with sports now, if they do kid things in the summer, they could have consequences when they return back to school. And the language in there from our retreat is because some sports take place over summer. So it's kind of encompassing of all sports, not just the ones that occur during the school year. So please, just a reminder, read over it, go over it with your students, make sure that they understand it, and have a good and safe summer.
Anything else? Okay. Those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay. I'm not in agreement with the fees
Okay.
for lunch.
That puts us in the roll call phase of the voting process. Carrie, please call the roll.
Bertles. Yes. Ahart.
Yes.
Brahan.
Yes.
Carver.
No.
Bauer.
No.
And Patey.
Yes. Okay. Motion passes. Okay. Approval of action item 6.6. Dave Courtney.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve the 2025-2026 copier duplicating paper bid in the amount of $52,432.95.
Okay. May I have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
Is this the lowest of the bids?
It's lower than normal.
Okay.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Carver.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Bertles. Yes. Ahart.
Yes.
Brahan.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay, moving on. Approval of action item 6.7. Dave Courtney.
Thank you. It is recommended the Board of Education accept the school bus diesel fuel bid from Heritage Petroleum for the 2025-2026 school year.
Okay. Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Carver.
Yes.
Ahart.
Yes.
Bertles. Yes. Brahan.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay. Now my favorite annual process. Approval of action item 6.8. Dave Courtney.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education accept the bid from Domino's to serve as the district's pizza vendor for the 2025-2026 school year.
May I have-
moved.
May I have a second? Okay. Discussion?
Yeah, so, one, is this the lowest bid that we're looking at, and is there any in-house that we could do that's competitive to this?
It is the lowest. I'm not sure, it's a question I've never had asked Scott. I'm not sure that we could do that on the days we do it. This is something where we do it like once a week at the different schools.
Sure.
And I know it's probably one of the products that, you know, we generate more income on than others.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So the price per student stays the same?
So that's a fair question too, Matt. I don't know if we've really Bree and I have not gone through like the a la carte pricing or pricing for those things for next year yet. We try not to increase any of those unless there's a dire need to do that. But that was something I would bring back before we do something like that. If we had to do that.
I'm just concerned, you know, I think Scott, I'm not gonna speak for you, but, you know, if we're spending $7.50 a large pizza, and I don't know how many large pizzas we have, but if you're in my house, it's quite a few.
Yeah,
So-
I mean, when the high school has them, there's probably between 75 and 100.
And what
on
that
a
bill
one
is
specific
compared to
day.
our daily food costs. I mean, are we overreaching?
No,
in cost
the
here?
way that we charge those, it's benefiting the food service program, even with a cost of $7.50.
So my other question to this is, so we don't have a have and have-nots. We said that lunches, we don't penalize a child that's wanting to, that needs to eat.
Right.
Are these inclusive in that, where any kid can go up? We're not separating the kids and saying, you
Right.
know, this is something that's separate.
Right.
Okay.
It is the entree for lunch that day.
Okay.
Now my question, does this include stuffed crust?
No.
No, I ask that every year. Still, I would think you'd catch on. Okay. Any further discussion?
Just, sorry, clarification, on a Domino's pizza day, getting Domino's pizza, paying $7.50 per pizza, large pizza, is cheaper than what it would cost to feed all students during that day because of the way that we charge it.
Generates more income for that day, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
There's a higher participation that day too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Bertles.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Ahar.
Yes.
Bryan.
Yes.
Carver.
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Approval of action item 6.9, Dave Courtney.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve a resolution to reduce the special treasurer's bond required with the 2023 construction bond issue.
Okay,
Move for approval?
may I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion?
I'm gonna need a brief explanation.
So when there are different bonds that as school treasurer you're required to have, there's a regular bond which I have to have it every year for like the overall amount of money that is in the custody of the school district at one time, and it's 10% of that amount. When you do special bond issues, health, life, safety bond issue, construction bond issues and things like that, you have to have another special treasurer's bond to cover the proceeds from those bond issues. So this would have been off the original bond issue. We have spent a certain amount of that now. we have like $60 million remaining. You can reduce that from the initial amount to the 60 million that you have remaining, and 10% of that reduces it to 6 million. So you have to adopt a resolution to do that. I have to then turn it into the bonding company, so they have proof that that bond can be reduced, and then we hold that bond. So when that money is lowered again and that bond comes up for renewal again, if we're down to 20 million, we would do another resolution to reduce it until the proceeds are gone.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Bertles? Yes. Ahart?
Yes.
Bryan?
Yes.
Carver?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes. Okay, approval of action item 6.10. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the memorandum of understanding between the City of Edwardsville and the district to continue the School Resource Officer Program for the 2025-2026 fiscal year.
Okay. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Bryan?
Yes.
Carver?
Yes.
Bertles?
Yes.
Ahart?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes. Okay. Approval of action item 6.11. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the purchase of Edwardsville High School World Geography instructional materials and professional development in the amount of $62,952.
Okay. May I have a motion? No? No motion?
Yes.
No, okay. Second? Did I hear somebody say?
Second.
Okay.
I can't second again.
You're a long way away. Okay. Any discussion? Questions? Clarifications? Ambiguities?
No.
Nothing?
No.
Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Bauer?
Yes.
Ahart?
Yes.
Bertles?
Yes.
Bryan?
Yes.
Carver?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes. Okay. Approval of action item 6.12. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve the purchase of Edwardsville High School consumer education materials and professional development from Cengage in the amount of $85,957.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Questions?
Is this different from any of the other media that we've used? Is it a new vendor? Are we consolidating material?
And this is where I'm so blessed to have Tirsha Lenore in the audience from our curriculum department who can answer those questions. So Tirsha, thanks for being here.
No, sir, it's not any different. Cengage is one of our providers that we use for our other curriculum resources.
Okay, thank you.
So it's just an update to consumer education materials from Cengage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Okay. Carrie, please call the roll.
Bertles?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Ahart?
Yes.
Bryan?
Yes.
Carver?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes. Okay. Approval of action item 6.13. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve personnel matters related to the resignations and retirements of employees discussed earlier this evening in executive session.
May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Carrie, please call the roll.
Carver?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bertles?
Yes.
Ahart?
Yes.
Bryan?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes. Okay. Approval of action item 6.14. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve personnel matters related to the appointment, employment, compensation, or transfer of employees, pending required certifications and professional educator license, completion of paperwork, and all background fingerprint checks completed as cleared, as discussed earlier in executive session.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Carrie, please call the roll.
Bertles?
Yes.
Ahart?
Yes.
Bauer?
Yes.
Bryan?
Yes.
Carver?
Yes.
Patey?
Yes. Okay. Approval of action item 6.15. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve contracts 216 days for the named elementary building principals for the 2025-2026 school year.
Thank you. May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Carrie, please call the roll.
Ahart,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bertles,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Carver,
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay, approval of action item 6.16. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended that the Board of Education approve 12-month contracts for the Liberty and Lincoln Middle School principals for the 2025-2026 school year.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Carrie, please call the roll.
Carver,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Bertles,
Yes.
Ahart,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Approval of action item 6.17. Dr. Shelton.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve 12-month contracts for the named central office directors for the 2025-2026 school year.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, Carrie, please call the roll.
Bauer,
Yes.
Ahart,
Yes.
Bertles,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Carver,
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay, approval of action item 6.18. Dave Courtney.
Thank you. It's recommended the Board of Education approve a new 3-year successor contract agreement with the Edwardsville School Service Personnel Association from July 1st, 2025 through June 30, 2028.
Move for approval.
May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay, Carrie, please call the roll.
Bertles,
Yes.
Carver,
Yes.
Ahart,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Patey.
Yes. Okay. There any, now move to number 7 on the agenda. Are there any, there are business or announcements the board members would like to bring up?
I would.
Okay.
So I'd like to correct the record on some things. I'm sure some of you have seen an article that's been posted pertaining to my work and me being available. First off, I'm a father and I'm a husband and I provide for my family. Second off, I'm part of this community and I love the community just as much as I love my family. So when people question my loyalty towards either of those, I get incensed because when the public asked me to step up and speak on behalf of people, I did. When they asked me to step up and be a board member, I did. When questions need to be asked and raised and pushed back upon, I did. When I thought things had value for this district, I voted for it. You look at my voting record, you'll see what I've done for this community. You see where I stand with this community. And I don't tolerate people questioning my loyalty towards this community. If you have a question, by all means, reach out to me. I have no problems answering anything. Now, when I'm giving the data to make an educated assessment on something, I will act upon that. When I'm given the resources to connect, then I will be on here. But when I'm not given either, I'm not here. If you're asking me to take a vow of poverty to do this, I will not do that because I will not sacrifice my family. But in the same thing, I will not give this community one iota less than what they deserve, and that's 100%. So with that being said, I am 100% Edwardsville. I always have, always will. I am 100% in Ahart. I always have, and I always will. And I'll have neither be questioned. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your loyalty. Those people that have reached out to me, thank you very much. That's all I'll say on this topic ever again.
Thanks, Scott. Did you have something?
Yeah, I did. Something else that we talked about at the retreat, and it didn't get covered by any of our action items tonight because we kind of said we're just going to table it or leave it as is the committees.
Yes.
Do you want to expand a little bit that we're going to just leave everything as it is and kind of do it as a trial after we had a lot of discussion? Or?
Yeah, so we had a lot of discussion about the what to do with the organization and the committees. I think everybody's open to the change, but we wanted to do a dry run with a couple of work sessions and make sure that, everything flows from an information standpoint, and how we plan on continuing on with that. And then once we kind of get a feel for that rhythm, then we can make it more of a policy change and do that. And it's within our ability to do that. We can make policies what we want them to be, and then we create that policy to make some more of a standing thing going forward.
So at this time, the plan is, as far as the board or the committee action or committee discussion is going to be during work sessions amongst all board members.
Right.
But not, rather than just having smaller committees.
Rather than, right. And
But
a lot of
you-
that was born out of pretty much most of the board members enjoying the discussions that we're having on all the topics and wanting to be a part of that discussion, and that would help facilitate that. And making our work session meeting be more sort of a committee focused, topic focused, would kind of drive that. And then if action items come out of that, we can either deal with them then or take care of them during the regular meeting. So, yeah.
Bob, the community has reached out and has asked if, in consideration to this possibility, if it would be broadcasted live so they can be a part of some of these discussions, or if it would be a closed session. Whereas
the
committee
intention I was
attend
thinking
them.
that we have discussed is that it would actually be a regular committee recording. So it probably would show up, instead of being actual like a regular meeting recording, it would be a committee recording that would be searchable. It would be sort of listed with all of our other regular meetings. So
Just like a work session.
just like
Yeah, just like
a work session. We may not stream it live, but we would record it, and then what the hope is that then those blocks of information, like whatever topic we're being discussed, you know how when you go to YouTube and they index it based on the
Sure.
topic,
Yep.
would allow you to be able to easily find
Perfect.
it rather than have to go through some of our board meetings like tonight, 3 hours long. Oh my gosh, when's the topic going to be discussed? We'll hopefully facilitate that process
Nice.
a little
Okay.
bit more to make it a little easier for people to find those topics.
Okay.
Of course, we're working. This is sort of an evolving process. We're trying to find our rhythm.
So right now, when we think about the August work session, which is our next work session, you'll see topics divided by 3 different categories. It would be by policy, by facilities and finance, or by program and personnel. And then anything that's personnel obviously is an executive session, but outside of that, you'll see them by kind of divided by those 3 topics. So, and then under there, you'll see the topics for discussion or consideration.
Yeah.
And with that comment being made, I guess I would recommend that we don't combine those last 2, because if we're not, unless there would be some kind of a personnel that we could discuss in open session, I don't know if there's a reason why that should be combined. But
Well, I think the intention was, and we see this in a couple other districts where they list the programs and personnel together, is because there are certain personnel topics that are in general, for the entire personnel, whether you're talking about, a 403B plan, or how, various things that impact personnel in general need to be discussed that would not be a closed session topic.
Oh, okay.
That type of stuff. Obviously,
Okay.
if it's a personnel decision, we would deal with that in a closed session. So, okay. Anything else? Okay. Sorry, I lost my place here. The agenda topics for the next meeting, obviously, well, we said June, but,
The special meeting on Friday.
oh, that's right. Sorry. Yeah. Okay, so this Friday we'll be having a meeting to review and approve the amended budget that's been posted. And then in the July meeting, we'll be looking at some intergovernmental agreements, depositories for the school year, and approval of employment items. And then next topic, we do not have to have a closed meeting since we took care of all of our issues earlier today. So then we're moving to the adjournment portion of the meeting. With no further business, may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.